It's a real pleasure to have this group of travelers from all around gathering here in Murcia to start this amazing journey. It is the first time that it starts in Murcia, and we have the hope that you feel at home and that Anka will repeat in the near future, gathering the travelers here as a beginning, with the symbolical meaning of being the town being the birthplace of Ibn Arabi. I would like to start this little talk that is not a paper as has been announced, because it will be more. We would like some people would read papers, but some. Our initial idea was to emphasize the more spontaneous communication, as Inaya is is emphasizing. Now, my first idea to accompany your journey is a reflection Ibn Arabi provides in the chapter of Futuhat Makkiyah, where he is answering at-Tirmidhi's questionnaire, the famous questions, who only the inheritor of the Muhammadian sainthood would answer fully. And at some moment, I was doing a research on the question of the akhlaq, the 117 primordial divine character traits that are present in all creative process in creation. Those 117 includes the 99 known names, divine names, but there are a number of other characters. The interesting remark he does, and this applies to those remarks you have in a written page concerning the traits that the physical places in the spiritual geography have offered to the visitors. So the physical geography actually is linked necessarily, as everything in existence, to the other planes of reality and meaning, so necessarily has got a connection to any spiritual presence linked to them. Now, he says that, and since you are going to travel in Al-Andalus, Al-Andalus being still alive because of the physical traces left by the time in which it was Al-Andalus, he says the following. He says that he never found in all the earth, he do not say the earth I know, or the whole earth as I know, this is not clear. He says the 170 characters are not fully manifested as a whole in any place of the world except in one particular land, which is Al-Andalus. And well, it's quite a statement. I don't know how to interpret that. I ask myself, would it be because of his personal presence in this land? Why would it be so? Was that the matter in his time? Would it be the matter forever because of a particular character of this land? I wonder. But I invite you to reflect on this question of geography and these character traits, and hopefully this will provide some insights. Then, when he wrote the Kitab al-Isra, one of the most beautiful writings about Mi'raj, about the journey, inner journey in the degrees, in the presences, through the spheres, through the company of the successive prophets, he wrote, well, as the Salik, the traveler, the one who is journeying, do depart from Al-Andalus to go to Al-Quds, to Jerusalem. From there, the Mi'raj will follow on. So one would say that Al-Andalus had quite a meaningful, symbolical meaning in the works of Ibn Arabi, and there are all these bits of information where we realize the idea of Oriental prophethood and Occidental sainthood and a certain correspondence, the saints of lights and the saints of secrets, etc. All this relationship of this polarity, symbolical spiritual polarity of Orient and Western lands, Oriental and Western lands, a subject of which Steve wrote wonderful pages you can read. And now that's it for concerning Al-Andalus. Also, I wonder whether, I think Steve will mention, because he knows better than me, the meaningful presence of Ibn Saidabun as one of the important companions in the spiritual experience of Ibn Arabi during his Andalusian period. And he was living here, so he will also accompany your journey in the town. Now I will try to go to the concepts of my presentation, which are Safar al-Qalb, so the idea of Safar, travel, and the idea of heart. I do not aim here to do any kind of academic presentation, but more of a personal reflection on the matter. I will refer to this so well-known verse that was my inspiration to start my studies on Ibn Arabi, لَقَدْ سَارَ قَلْبِي قَابِلًا كُلَّ سُورَةٍ. My heart became capable of adopting all forms. We could understand all beliefs. And when I read that, I fall in love and I say, well, that's what I want to learn about. And let me, from the point of view of ishtiqaq, imjinni, of lexical interconnection of the words, lexical interreference, by which words of the same root are deeply connected in meaning. We see here Sara, Sura. In fact, it's two different roots, but connected by Sad, Ra, okay? And we see the heart, qalb, and we see the root qabil, receptor, capable, receptive. So we see that the two words with these two letters, S, Ra, would mean something like transforming, a process of transformation as the process of becoming images. Okay, so images and transformation are deeply linked. I would also suggest there is a lexical interconnection which is called ishtiqaq kabir, which is linking roots to other roots that are similar, only a point of articulation varies. And I am quite sure that the idea of surah and the idea of the two words in place in the verse are connected to all the roots, like, for example, secrets, asrar, which is also S-R. It's a different letter, but is connected, right? And if you see, when we say secret, and it is also connected to the light, to surur, and to other things, this idea of secret is something that permeates hiddenly, right? As the light itself, as the joyful delight itself. And it is connected to another word to speak about traveling, which is Saey. Or if we speak in terms of personal journey, biography, as the sira of the Prophet, the biography, in the sense of the journey of your life. Well, this sira, which is from Sayara, is also connected to Sara, to Sir, to secret, as it is connected to the idea of Sarayan, the permeation, the journeying of any influx, the constant flux, secretly permeating existence. This is to suggest some ideas of possible interconnected matters concerning those roots. So we see that transformation, image, secret, permeation are deeply connected from the origin of the Arabic words. Now, going to heart and receptor, both roots, according to the ishtiqaq, to the lexical interconnection called supreme, al-ishtiqaq al-akbar, even roots in which the order of letters change would be connected. This is quite a conception of Imjinni. Scholars would not convey that this is reasonable, but anyway, it was an idea spread among Sufis and certainly familiar to Ibn Arabi. So he's not just playing an alliteration. He's suggesting that the heart itself, being characterized as a mirroring receptor, is connected to the idea of receptivity, of reproducing a shape, which is the root Kabbalah, from which Kabbalah in Hebrew comes as well, or a tribe would come, because a tribe means what comes before, reception of what comes before, etc. I will not go further into linguistics, sorry for that, just to let us share what is obvious in any text of the Sheikh, and it is that Arabic provides a whole frame for contemplation of meanings that makes his texts, as well as the Quran itself, of course, somehow untranslatable. We can, of course, always translate, producing versions, interpretation, contemplations of the meaning, but his text is always open to new readings because it's a matter of contemplation. And this is really possible in Semitic languages in particular, so, and among them, particularly relevant in Hebrew and Arabic, as you know. Now, the heart in this verse, and the famous poem, on which Steve wrote also wonderful pages, provides 6 images. He says, my heart became capable of accepting the form of a meadow for gazelles, tablets of the Torah, etc. 6 images, which are the 6 faces of a cube, in correspondence to the image of the Kaaba. Okay, not only that, but later on, when he mentions, and I am a lover as, and he mentioned 3 couples of known lovers of the Arabic literature. And in a good translation, it is understood that they are only 6. So 3 couples, each feminine and masculine, corresponding to a particular face in front of the other of the cube, representing the human heart as well as the Kaaba. And there is an expression, wa uswatiha, at some place. In bad translations, you get wrong because you think it's the sister of a beloved, while what he means, according to my interpretation and others, is and the similar and the homologues to them. So he means we have these 6 lovers, these 6 faces, or they're similar. Okay? In that sense, those 6 faces are not fixed in manifestation, but whatever will manifest in this turning of the cube of the heart towards the multiple reality will always be renewed in a permanent renewal of creation as a main approach of understanding for Ibn Arabi. Why I come to this description of one possible metaphor of the heart? Because what I would like us to reflect upon now together is on the fact that I would say that what deeply characterizes Sufism and other forms of mystical perception of reality in front of other kind of discourses is precisely the center of the heart. I think this is the center itself of the Abrahamic tradition. If we have to say what is the main characteristic of Abrahamic tradition, I would say personally it is the heart conceived as the center of a human being, as the center of existence. So as the Kaaba of existence. But I will go a little bit further following what the text of Ibn Arabi inspired to me in that sense. At some point, Ibn Arabi says in the Istilahat, describing the heart, he says, the heart is the safar, and keeps going. He says, the heart is the journeying. The heart itself is the trip, is the journey, okay? He don't say the heart is the musafir, is the traveler. Nor does he say the heart is a function or is an organ or is this which travels. No, he equals, in this point, heart with travel itself. Now look, Safara has got Sin and Ra, and a letter in the middle. So from the point of view of the supreme lexical connection, it is itself an expression of like the Saer, like the Sir, etc. It would be connected to the same idea of permeation. So the root Safara, I'm back to linguistics. The root Safara is a very interesting metaphor. It would mean the breaking of dawn in the morning. So it means traveling in the morning, early in the morning, even before the sun is up. So people travel at this time to be fresh. So the sun will break, the lights will break in the horizon. So things will appear, obscurity will disappear. The whole metaphor implies that. For example, it is said for a woman who will unveil the face, it is said, asfarat an wajhiha. She takes off the veil, so her face, the metaphor means her face will shine as the sun in the sky, as the veil of darkness go out, right? So the idea of Safara is to appear and to disappear. And all the meanings have this matter, coming from the idea of light manifesting. According to scholars, the idea of book, Safar, especially sacred book, as Ibn Arabi used it, will come from a different Semitic root. But this is for scholars, such as Rosenthal. But in the mind of Arabic scholars who were thinking of Arabic directly, without this knowledge of previous philological matters, of previous etymologies, they would immediately perceive the connection of book and journeying as the same reality. And so this is another interesting metaphor we have to keep in mind. The heart is traveling, is safar. The heart is a book, which is a familiar image for all of us. But it is also a book, and it is journeying. So writing, interpreting, living the book, being the book as the heart travels is the same image. So trying to contemplate that, I think it is plausible to say that the essence of a human being is the heart. And I think we could go as far as to say, reading in Arabi, as what characterizes properly human being is the heart, or to say that a real human being, he is a heart. His function is a heart, which is at the same time the Ain, the pupil of the eye, whatever image we want to add to it, but the centrality of the heart comes to be a certain identity of human being himself being the heart of existence, the Kaaba of existence somehow. And I could refer to all those images familiar to you in Hadith, where the heart would contain the presence of Rahman, right? Or when the Gnostics, as Bistami said, that in the human heart, the throne would be, the throne containing all existence will be felt as something almost lost in a corner of that human heart. So look at such a centrality of the image. So I think as we travel, we can conceive this reality of each one being being a possible, actualizing possibly this condition of being the heart, not being just a person with a heart, but being a heart, being the journey itself, not somebody journeying, but being the journey itself. I think it's a beautiful perspective, and it's quite inclusive, because this heart, which contains everything, being all-inclusive, means that in no way we are isolated or we are opposed to anything from a certain perspective. So I think this inclusive idea of the heart comes from its very essence of being itself the endless heart, which is our human characteristic, if we can be given the gift of realizing that essential nature of our condition. So why I wanted to link that to a very important matter. We were once in Seville. It was a congress on Sufism and arts. A number of Iranian scholars. Pierre Lori was there also, Purjabadi from Iran, many other people. Gracia, you were there at the faculty? Well, and at some point, one of the scholars, he is from Barcelona, he's very knowledgeable about Ibn Arabi, we were discussing about the concept of tahaqquq and tahqiq. So verification and realization of meaning, realization of oneself. Well, you had in Oxford a whole congress 2 years ago, 3 years, on this matter, the matter of the key concept of realization. As you know, both words, tahqiq, verifying, or the idea of tahaqquq, realization, come from the root of al-haq, the name of God, meaning the truth, the reality, with capitals. It is also a name for the Quran. The Quran is al-haq, is the truth by excellence. So when we come to reflect upon the meaning of this word, a question arises, which is the classical question of what is the difference of the way of knowing proper to the visionaries, to the Sufis, and proper to the philosophers. And what was quite shocking to me is that this scholar, who is so knowledgeable, said, what is the difference? I can't see any difference in between the tahakkuk of the philosopher and the tahakkuk of the Sufi. If I understood properly, he meant they all deal with intelligible realities. Their discourse is, at the end, a discourse characterized by an intelligible approach. So finally, the truths they are espousing and how they deal with knowledge, in his understanding, came to be the same. And this is a relevant matter. Ibn Arabi, of course, would describe, as so many other Sufis, when dealing with the Mi'raj, is this image where the Sufi would be accompanied by the philosopher, and they will go through the heavens and through the presence of the prophets and so, but at some point the philosopher cannot go further. He must get back, have his experience in order to be able to complete his Mi'raj, his ascension, because he's limited. And he's not limited because his lack of reasoning, his lack of mental ability to deal with the intelligible. He's limited by his lack of courtesy, of opening of the heart. The difference in between is in the heart. So when somebody says, what is the difference? Then I think, oh, perhaps it's a different understanding of in what consists the perception of realities. It's a matter of perception. For the people dealing mentally with intellectual affairs, their center is in the mind, and they cannot conceive the link and the power of imagination as a center in the heart. Not imagination as the imaginary, accompanying the mental experience, but the imagination as all the powers of perception accompanying with the images of inspiration and revelation and tajalli and self-manifestation of being in each form, accompanying this essential process in the experience of knowers, such of verifiers, muhakkikun, such as Ibn Arabi himself. So my understanding of these things is very limited because of the limitation of my own perception of reality, but in my intuition and in my understanding, the essential difference of procedures of experience is again the concept of journeying and the concept of heart. And sorry, what is the timing? I'm taking too much time? Already gone? 20 minutes? Nearly or gone? Well, since we are going to have time to discuss openly and we want to emphasize that, I will soon finish. So just to close a little bit the idea is to say that for Sufis and other thinkers, Kabbalists, or any mystical path, any visionary perspective of reality which emphasize experience from the heart and special kinds of perception, the difference of the kind of tahakkuk or tahqiq is very clear. And there is not even a doubt about it. It's not a matter of what is it about. It's essentially clear. But the question is, when we are discussing with people who only can face knowledge through a mental understanding of concepts and categories, and in order to establish a dialogue, the central function of the heart must be clear. And I would refer, because I was having a nice conversation with Nasra. Where are you, Nasra? Oh, Nasra is here. We were having yesterday a conversation in relation to Oriental Sufi practices, such, for example, as the Lataif, exercises in the Kubrawi tradition, in the Simnani tradition, in the Naqshbandi tradition, and others. There is a clear emphasis on the world of lights and how the spiritual centers of the spiritual body would operate in relation to degrees of perception. This is implicitly always permeating Ibn Arabi's writings, where he speaks about the different kinds of lights one would receive in different degrees of experience, etc. His sense of the body as a place of manifestation of tajalli itself. So once the conception and the experience of the body is transformed into a level of spiritual perception, it becomes also a holy place of manifestation. So in that sense, the centers for perception that are progressively awakened during the journey are a fundamental perspective from the point of view of inner experience. While in purely intellectual approaches, the awakening of other centers of perception, a part of the mind itself, are neglected. So this is an enormous difference of the idea of journeying and the approach. I do not mean by that I think that philosophers are not included in that sense. I would rather consider figures as Plato or as Plotinus, or I don't know, but I tend to consider them, as I was sharing with our friend Heba. We were discussing these matters. I will rather consider a number of relevant philosophers of history among the Gnostics themselves. So people of direct experience of the intelligible in the company of a powerful imagination with awakened centers of perception, and people with a heart, or who were hearts. I don't know, I can know what was their degree. I'm not establishing thus, I'm not saying philosophy is here, mystical discourse is there. No, I believe they come together in many respects, and so in some cases, such as in Ibn Arabi's own case, he is a speculative thinker himself, but he will never say, I am a speculative thinker, because he is not just a speculative thinker, right? But this will include a number of famous philosophers as well. This would be so my response to my absent friend, whose works, from another point of view, I deeply admire and respect. And this was my suggestion, that we may journey as being a living heart capable of adopting any form, of feeling the safar, the journey in itself, as our own personal reality, and journeying through our spiritual body of lights, being conscious of the fact that when openings happens, they happen particularly in the outside spiritual geography and in the inner spiritual geography of our body of lights. And thank you. That was it.